Good evening, everyone. My name is Elybeth Alcantar. My affiliation is to the Mixtec town of San Mateo Tlatongo. My family's village is located in the Nochixtlán Valley of Oaxaca, Mexico, which will be the main setting of this paper. This is the presentation of my thesis entitled Memoria Mixeca, Memory as a Geography of Resistance in the Mixteca Alta, Oaxaca, Mexico. I'm currently a PhD student in the Department of Geography at the University of Texas at Austin. This paper centers the Nochixtlán conflict that occurred in 2016 in the Mixteca Alta region of Oaxaca and the relationship of collective memory in the geographies of indigenous Mixtecs and their community members as crucial to understanding the future of the communities of the Mixteca and their possibilities of continuing to exist in their home territories free of state-sponsored violence. The geographical region of the Mixteca in southeast Mexico encompasses the states of Puebla, Guerrero, and Oaxaca. However, I'll center on the latter and its subregion, the Mixteca Alta. It is in the Nochixtlán Valley, the largest valley of the Mixteca Alta, where the Mixtecs, an ethnic community of indigenous peoples, have occupied and existed for millennia. The Mixtec people of the Nochixtlán Valley share an identity through a common language heritage, culture, governance, territory, and memory. The Mixteca Alta villages govern through the systems of comunalidad or usos y costumbres. The municipal seat considers decision-making power through the engagement of the town hall, the assemblies, the tequios, the cargos, and the committees that exercise power over potable water usage or land use for the collective benefit of the citizens and other protections of citizenship in the villages. Although the Mixtecs are the largest ethnic community inhabiting the Nochixtlán Valley, there are various other ethnic communities or organizations that exist and overlap within the Nochixtlán Valley, and I do not want to conflate the Mixtec ethnic communities in the Mixteca as the only people in the region. And I mentioned instead that Mixtec people take part in these organizations as well as other Mexican citizens who are not Mixtec but have migrated internally into the region. An organization that is a central group to understanding resistance to state-sponsored terror is the Teachers Union of Coordinadora Nacional de Trabajadores de Educación, the CNTE, but even more specific, the Active and Combative Teachers Union Chapter, Section 22. The powerful role of the teachers is a central element of the thesis because of their advocacy for the people they serve. They played a pivotal role in Mixtec resistance in 2006, in 2016, and they continue to do so. It is through collective memory that it becomes a binding force for Mixtecs in the community who, through a shared embodiment of fear of state terror, as well as participation in action against state terrorism, use memory as a shared mechanism for resisting against the violence happening in Mixtec geographies. The Oaxaca teachers' strike of 2006, which occurred in the city of Oaxaca and lasted from June to November of that year, brought together a multitude of ethnic communities and other social justice organizations to respond to the state-sponsored violence. Although it did not occur in the geographies of the Mixteca Alta, the memories of that event and the communities that participated in it recall that experience as to engage in a similar strike in 2016. In 2013, Mexico's President Enrique Peña Nieto put forth educational reforms created by the Organization Economic Cooperation and Development and a part of the World Bank-sponsored structural adjustment package that directly reprimanded striking teachers, disregarded culturally specific pedagogical projects, and closed primary schools in the most rural areas of Mexico. The teachers of CNTE, along with indigenous villages of Oaxaca, devised the Plan for the Transformation of Education in Oaxaca, the PTEO, as a counter-pedagogical project that would embrace the systems of governance of the indigenous villages, teach the language and cultural revitalization projects, and provide accessible education for the most rural areas of the state. After 3 years of smaller protests by CNTE opposing the educational reforms and demanding the use of the PTEO in Oaxacan classrooms, May 15, 2016, a statewide mobilization began, and the chapter of Section 22, along with other community members, began 13 blockades on the highways and superhighways throughout the 37 sectors of the state. In the case of Nochixtlán, only 90 kilometers from Oaxaca City, the blockade was established on the superhighway Tehuacan, Oaxaca, which is a strategic location as Nochixtlán gives direct access to all of the Mixteca region as well as the coast. This is a highway is also used to transport resources, commodities to and from Mexico City. And this blockade made a tremendous impact on the economy in Mexico at the statewide and national level, demonstrating the amount of community-driven power that existed amongst Indigenous Mixtecs and their community. On June 19, 2016, the Federal Preventative Police attacked the blockade at Nochixtlán, assassinating 8 civilians, leaving 100 injured by bullets, 150 injured by other means, and leaving 300 to 400 civilians indirectly injured. This is the catastrophic event that we now know as the Massacre of Nochixtlán of 2016. It is through collective memory of past conflicts and through the establishment of blockades that people within the Mixteca create profound relationships of solidarity, thereby fueling Mixtec people in the remaking of their landscapes as they pursue to seek justice. The questions I posed were as follows. How do Mixtec people use collective memory, specifically from experiences of state violence, such as the Nochixtlán Massacre of 2016, to renegotiate Mixtec geographies? How are Mixtecs creating sites of memory as geographies of resistance in the Mixteca region and beyond? Memory studies within geography is pertinent in explaining the role of collective memory within Mixtec livelihoods and relationships to their geographical landscapes, as well as the other forms of memory that are also social and shared within Mixtec existence. Maurice Halbwachs first examined the role of collective memory between groups of people and how it carried out beyond the individual members. In the case of the Nochixtlán Massacre, it is the people present in the attack who experienced the event and can engage with the social memory of the massacre. However, when these memories of the attack are shared and transmitted amongst generations, space, communities, family, kin, and others who did not experience a massacre but are informed through other technologies of memory production, also take part in the renegotiations of collective memory. Collective memory formation in the Nochixtlán Valley is not contemporary, rather collective memory formation and negotiation has been occurring for centuries. In the case of the Mixtecs of the Nochixtlán Valley, it is the Codex Nutal and Codex Vienna that shape the collective memory, but are also examples of Mixtec geography, as pictorials are used to designate specific cultural and ritual sites. However, with Spanish colonization, there are also shifts of memory and cartography of Mixtecs. Terraciano describes the reorganization of Mixtec pueblos by Spanish colonization became a fractural and dispersal in the landscape, reshaping and altering the geopolitical relations of Mixtec communities through time. It is through the theoretical paradigms of indigenous epistemology, settler colonialism, and critical race theory that encompass the ways Mixtec geographies have become landscapes of fear, racialized geographies, and spaces of resistance. During the period of colonization, the Spanish carried out massacres of indigenous populations, and it continues to be a strategy employed by the Mexican government as a tool of violence and extermination, as Todorov notes how massacres are committed outside the metropole in rural regions. It is Aníbal Quijano who explains how the formation of the Mexican state denied indigenous populations from being a part of state formation and positioned them as inferior in the racialized hierarchies in Mexico. This further allowed for the landscapes that indigenous people lived on to become racialized territory that was subjected to militarization. I used Ulrich Oslender's 7-point framework of geographies of terror, the productions of landscapes of fear, restricted mobility, dramatic transformation of the sense of place, deterritorialization, physical moment in space, reterritorialization, spatial strategies of resistance to provide a more in-depth understanding of how terror is weaponized against the people of the Mixteca. Rebecca Klauser, who researches landscapes of fear, explains that they result from various natural forces, such as the aftermath of an earthquake, but also the social actions that occur on the landscape that cause anxiety and dread. The Federal Preventive Police stationed at posts occupying the region creates disruption in the routine movement of indigenous people. Although there is fear, resistance can also occur. And I use the decolonial framework guided by comunalidad to explain how Mixtec geography cannot reproduce the Eurocentric concept of space, rather can serve as the means to decolonize the ways in which we consider indigenous geographies and how indigenous people organize, resist, and negotiate memory on their territories. I carried out 30 to 90-minute qualitative ethnographic open-ended interviews by Zoom or phone call The participants had to be above the age of 18 when interviewed, either a teacher of the CNTE, ethnically Mixtec, or a community member of the Mixteca Alta region. It is these identities and people who take part in making and reshaping of Mixtec collective memory. Throughout each interview, individuals took their time in recalling, remembering, engaging in a practice of memory to recount past conflicts between the government of Mexico and Mixtec villages. These recollections include themes of fear, collective solidarity, and continued resistance occurring in the Mixteca region of Oaxaca, and which are concerns for the current community members, the teachers, and the diasporic Mixtecs. The first overarching theme was fear, with three key areas being fear of the government as its police forces took on the duty to kill and brutalize civilians. Interviewee Marta stresses that the fear continues, especially a fear of surveillance, which becomes intimidation that prevents teachers from wanting to continue in the struggle as their livelihoods become compromised. This shared fear and anger provided foundations for people to join together in a shared struggle against state violence. Community members attributed the engagement of usos y costumbres as a means to respond to the conflict in Nochixtlán. Laura recalled that it is through Tequio that Mixtec elders, community members, and teachers of Section 22 take part in reproducing collective solidarity to redefine obligation, service, and activism for the well-being of all Mixtec villages. Marta noted how parents began engaging with teachers to assist in the struggle against education reforms as the reforms became a symbol of the future of privatizing more resources in the Mixteca region. When the hospital was shot during the massacre and the Red Cross was barred from accessing Nochixtlán, Marta, Eugenio, Jerónimo, and Laura expressed how the community members' drive to help the wounded did not come from a place of capital gain, but it came from a place of solidarity as ambulances from other villages were shared, as well as water was given and community kitchens were established. Out of the collective solidarity, a profound desire to cultivate continued resistance flourished as participants championed the need to continue to defend the future of Oaxacan youth. Eugenio explained to me that this is the fight is for the youth, but also the extension of the youth, the villages of Oaxaca. Although the slain may not be able to speak from their graves, the wounded, like Andres, are still partaking in the demand for justice as committees are formed to engage in discourses of justice. It is Italibi, Ray, Lina, and Paola that remind me that Mixtec villages are not a static identity. There are different demands within villages. As some want inclusion in the state, while others demand full autonomy, but at the same time, they all want respect for their livelihoods. The hope to continue a practice of identity, to not forget culture, language, customs, regalia in the Mixteca region is also a part of continued resistance. In conclusion, the current president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, has put a pause on the previous education reforms, allowing the state of Oaxaca to use the PTEO. The PTEO has given the opportunity to teachers, such as teachers in the Mixteca Baja, to devise and exercise the curriculum Nusabi in Ixpantepec Nieves. This curriculum is used to teach Mixtec language in primary schools, as well as other cultural tenets of Mixtec ways of being. At the doctoral level, I plan to continue a longitudinal study of this research with teachers of Section 22 and Mixtec community members. I also recognize that there have been other conflicts in the Nochixtlán region at intercommunal levels. However, I refuse to write on these conflicts because of the ways in which indigenous populations within Mexico have been labeled as naturally violent by mestizos to be able to perpetuate violence against our communities. The people from below, the subaltern, the Mixtec villages in the Nochixtlán Valley use their memories of past conflicts to renegotiate how they organize against state violence on their territories. Our communities exist in the futures. We are creating on the geographies of our collective memories, as well as geographies of continued resistance as Mixtec people. Chivento. Thank you all.